哪里看啊？对，我们沙洲政府对，to table the motion，有一个那个 PDA 的油的东西，那个油吵架太厉害了。他说呢，带我们政府去把这那边，OK，我看他 Petronas 目的啊，他不管你韩国，但认为是在我们说错的，对不对？所以我们啊，有些东西啊，我要沙洲政府去发了 motion in parliament。to repeal 这个 PDA 的，取消这个 Petroleum Development Act，还有那个TSA Territorial Sea Act 跟那个 Continental Shelf Act，OK，这个三个法令我们要取消的，因为我们要拿个油出来的，OK，我们的目标是这样，其实那个是对呀，就这样。所以我们那个 letter 啊，你们可以啊，you can take the photo，我们这 photo 啊，一个 photo 这种啊，take the photo，那有这里面，对，还有，OK，我就写你了，还有啊，里面这边呢有那个 motion 我 prepare 给他的，全部 prepare 给他，brown motion，OK，嗯，还有啊。I stand by for them also in Bahasa Malaysia. Okay, Bahasa Malaysia. 这什么我可以把它 Bahasa Malaysia. I don't want to say that, oh, we don't know, 没有去证据的啦。I don't know, it's no Bahasa Malaysia, they cannot accept. 所以给他 complete set 给他 okay? 他 they cannot say that, they don't know, no time, 他不会的。I don't have any excuse. Okay? Okay, 在这个里面你有人说过有啊？Okay. On January 12, 2026, Petronas filed a lawsuit in the Federal Court of Malaysia, seeking a legal declaration. 什么？哦，这个呀，我以为，哦，这个有，马来西亚，哦，还有，Okay, first statement that I drafted is about lawsuit by Petronas in the federal court. Yeah? On January 12, 2026, Petronas filed a lawsuit in the federal court of Malaysia seeking a legal declaration on the regulatory framework governing oil and gas operations in Sarawak. The suit aimed to clarify whether the Petroleum Development Act 1974 or Sarawak state laws, specifically the Oil Mining Ordinance 1958, regulate upstream and downstream activities following disputes over petroleum Sarawak Perhat, that is Petros, role in the gas aggregator, so gas aggregator. The purpose of the suit was to obtain a definitive determination on the legal position of Petronas operations to ensure compliance with applicable laws rather than to challenge Sarawak's development goal. The respondents were the federal government and the Sarawak state government. In context, this follows disagreements over the right of Petros to act as the source guest Egikento, and differences in interpreting regulatory authority over such resources. Stated, the Sarawak government has left the matter for the federal court to decide, allowing the legal process to define boundaries of authority. The action arises from long-standing disputes, including disagreement over the validity of the PDA 1974 compared to Sarawak's right, with Petros alleged refusing to pay for gas supplied by Petronas during or under previous agreements. PBK challenges GPS and Sarawak members of parliament to file motion in parliament or admit you stand with Petronas, not Sarawak. Parti Pemerintah PBK today issues a direct and public challenge to the Sarawak GPS government and all Sarawak members of parliament to table the proposed motion on the restoration of Sarawak's oil and gas rights in Dewan Rakyat, or explain to Sarawakians why you refuse to do so. Sarawakians are watching, and Sarawakians are no longer impressed by slogans, speeches, or stage outrage. That is, Sarawakians are not asking for speeches, we are asking for action. As president of PBK, I wish to say, if GPS MP truly defend Sarawak, they should have no fear tabling this motion in Parliament. It is not seditious, nothing is inciting against the king, and it's not anti-Malaya, no violence, but it is about protecting our constitutional rights. We are here to back you up. For decades, Sarawak has been told to be patient with our oil and gas resources, which constitutionally belong to this land, are controlled, regulated, and monetized by Putrajaya through Petroleum Development Act 1974 and Petronas. Today, that injustice has reached a breaking point with Petronas and its subsidiaries taking legal action against the Sarawak government itself. PBK knows that Petronas suing the Sarawak government is not normal. It is not acceptable. It is a direct challenge to Sarawak constitutional authority, and Parliament must not stay silent. Let us be clear. It is not merely a legal dispute. This is a constitutional crisis and a betrayal of Sarawak rights as an equal partner in the Federation of Malaysia. GPS must choose. Either you choose Sarawak or you choose Petronas. The proposed parliamentary motion is clear, principled, and lawful. It calls for the repeal or amendment of federal laws that have stripped Sarawak and Sabah of ownership and control over their oil and gas resources. The restoration of full legislative and proprietary rights to the states, and aim to patronize using the court to intimidate or override state authority without parliamentary approval. If GPS truly believes in defending Sarawak's right, there is nothing to fear from tabling this motion. But if GPS MPs, members of parliament, refuse to act, Sarawakian withdraw their own conclusion that GPS fears Putrajaya more than it respects Sarawak. That GPS protect Petronas and Putrajaya more than it protects Sarawak constitutional rights. Sarawakian deserve honesty, not political theater. That GPS top of autonomy and FA 63 is nothing more than political theater. If they are not brave enough to defend Sarawak, but compromise or wish to give more face bagi muka to the federal government or to Petronas or its subsidiaries, they better no more be the government of Sarawak. This is a demand of the people of Sarawak that they are to step aside and gracefully let another team who is daring and uncompromising to take over them. Sarakians demand action, not excuses. Sarakians are angry, and rightly so. Angry at the federal government for centralizing our resources. Angry at Petronas for suing the constituent state. And increasingly angry at GPS for failing to draw a clear line in defense of Sarawak. PBK stands with the people, not with corporate monopolies and not with political convenience. This is the moment of truth. Table the motions, debate it openly, vote on it, so history records who stood for Sarawak and who stood for Petronas. This is the moment of truth. History will remember who stood up for Sarawak and who hid behind excuses. This is the moment of truth. History will remember who stood up for Sarawak and who hid behind excuses. PBK stands ready. PBK Parti Bumukjalan stands ready not with rhetoric but with resolve. We are ready to defend Sarawak while engaged rights. We are ready to restore Sarawak dignity within the Federation. And if others will not act, PBK will. PBK is clear. Sarawak oil and gas belong to Sarawakian. Any law that says otherwise must be repealed or amended. Anything less is a surrender. Sarawak resources belong to Sarawakian, not to Putrajaya, not to Petronas, and not to politicians who refuse to stand up when it matters most. Okay, motions here. Motion on the restoration of Sarawak and Sabah oil and gas wells. Whereas Sarawak and Sabah entered the Federation of Malaysia as equal partners with constitutional and legislative authority over land and natural resources within their respective territories. And whereas the Petroleum Development Act 1974, PDA 74, the Territorial Sea Act, and the Continental Shelf Act were enacted without the pre-consent of the people of Sarawak and Sabah and have been used to centralize ownership and control of oil and gas resources under the federal government and Petronas. And whereas these acts are inconsistent with the history, constitutional and legislative right of Sarawak and Sabah, including state laws such as the Oil Mining Ordinance 1958. And whereas the recent legal action by Petronas against Sarawak government constitute a direct challenge to the state legislative authority and has created constitutional uncertainty and public unrest in East Malaysia. And now, therefore, be it resolved that this House declares that the Petroleum Development Act 1974, the Territorial Seas Act, and the Continental Shelf Act shall no longer apply to Sarawak and Sabah insofar as they affect ownership, control, regulation, and revenue of oil and gas resources within their territories. This House calls upon the federal government to repeal or to amend these acts to restore full legislative and proprietary rights over oil and gas to the government of Sarawak and Sabah. This House affirms that Petronas shall not initiate or continue any legal proceedings against Sarawak and or Sabah governments without explicit parliamentary approval. This House resolves that failure to repeal or to amend this act necessitates a return of the mandate to the people of Sarawak and Sabah to democratically determine their future position within the Federation of Malaysia. This is my statement. The first statement of Thank you very much. Any questions?
January 26, a legal fight began. Petronas in the federal court, a challenging plan.
Oil and gas, Sarawak's ground, a question of the law. PDA 74 or 58, a fundamental flaw.
Sarawak's voice, it rises strong with pride for what is right. Our resources, our own land, shining ever so bright. No more silence, no more fear, the moment's come to choose. For Sarawak we stand tall, we've got nothing left to lose. PBK's challenge clear and bold to GPS, they say. Table the motion, stand for us, don't let our lives decay.
Decades of patience, now it's gone, and justice reached its peak. Petronas suing, not normal, a truth we must now speak.
Sarawak's voice, it rises strong, the cry for what is black. Our resources, our own land, shining ever so bright. No more silence, no more fear, the moment's come to choose. For Sarawak we stand tall, we've got nothing left to lose. Not just a legal battle, a crisis deep inside. Betrayal of our partnership, nowhere left to hide.
Repeal the laws, restore our rights, let Parliament decide. For honesty, not deter, with nowhere left to